Okay, I'm trying a new angle here. I'm not sure how useful this is going to be necessarily, but I wanted to talk about Super Monkey Ball some more, but specifically about the ways in which Super Monkey Ball is interesting to analyze for me. Because I was interested in continuing some analysis about Super Monkey Ball. I don't think this is what I'm going to do in this video, but it might be. I don't really know. The question is mostly that I was thinking, well, why not analyze Super Monkey Ball 2? And then I decided against that, and I wanted to sort of explain why. So, I am very interested in Super Monkey Ball 1. I continue to be very interested in Super Monkey Ball 1. And I want to think why. You know, I looked at the intro for Super Monkey Ball 2 ages ago, and I was fascinated. It is so filled with interesting things to study. I want to study it, you know. It's kind of like a love affair or something. Like, I am in love with Super Monkey Ball 2, but I don't know it very well. And my sort of my love affair, so to speak, with Super Monkey Ball 1 keeps getting deeper and deeper, and prevents me from looking at other video games. Prevent, of course, okay, that's sort of a bad way to look at it, but basically the metaphor here is, why analyze the same video game again and again, or the same work of art in general again and again? I think that there is a way in which the same work of art, upon being, you know, you look at it once and it becomes interesting. And you can't really control what you're interested in. I guess that's one of my main points. You can't control what you're interested in, like in love. But you see something in that video game that you're interested in. Or I'll say, I see things in the video game that I'm interested in, and they lead me to want to talk about them or to relate to them deeper. And when I relate to them deeper, then I see other things about that video game that I'm interested in. It feels as if getting to know something about a video game unlocks other areas of that video game that you hadn't ever focused on. The reason why it unlocks those things, in my mind, I think, is because your mind is so filled with patterns from the first batch of interests. Let's say in the first batch of interests, things that interest you are the colors of the menu screen, the shape of the buttons, the faces of the characters and the t-shirts they wear, and you're fascinated by that. You're thinking, why are they wearing these t-shirts? Why are the buttons shaped this way? Why is the menu this way? And this is all very interesting to you, let's say, right? And you're so interested in it that it is almost impossible to think about anything else. It feels as if my interest is so captivated by those particular shapes and patterns that I can't really think about anything else. And once I've exorcised, like The Exorcist, I don't know how you pronounce that, once you've banished the evil through a ritual, once you've banished your interest in those shapes, new shapes can come in. Very often, shapes that take into account what you had studied in the previous batch of analysis. So again, let's try and return back to the theme of analysis. It doesn't have to be so metaphorical all the time, maybe. So analysis, it's as if, yes, your head gets filled with these interesting things. You feel interest in certain shapes, aesthetic shapes, logical shapes, ethical shapes, I don't know. And your interest wants to be exercised. It wants to be banished. You want to sort of release that interest into a form in itself, and the form is the analysis. So you want to produce an analysis that banishes your interest in those forms. But in the production of that analysis, two things happen. Your head becomes a bit clearer and emptier, and therefore more receptive to thinking about new things and new shapes. This is sort of similar to burnout in a job or something. If you're burnt out. You have no space in your head to think about new things or incorporate new ideas or new plans or new anything. Like, you're so burnt out, you can barely just digest what has just happened. Even maybe just also in psychological healing, if you go through a process of having enormous insights about your mental health through therapy or something, and you're incorporating all those insights, you barely have space to think about a lot of other things, a lot of other insights. There's like a maximum amount of insights that you can obtain before you need to digest them. It's almost like a biological kind of metaphor, like like digestion, like pooping, like you eat and you poop. Like, you need to do both things, I guess. Eating requires defecating in a way. Sorry for the for this sort of metaphor, but it does feel that way, that sometimes interest obtains a series of shapes, and those shapes sort of habitate your body. They're incorporated in your body, and you won't be able to get rid of them until you banish them in some way, get rid of them. And in my personal experience, that tends to be through making art or making analysis or something like that, speaking them out in some public way. It could also be anything else. I'll leave that open. It could be any other form of banishing, if banishing is required for you. Maybe there are different kinds of ways of dealing with this, of course, but different kinds of metabolisms, so to speak, analytically speaking. But okay, so Super Monkey Ball, right? I'm interested in certain shapes in Super Monkey Ball, and I can't let go of them. I can't just move on to another game because I feel like I haven't banished fully the contents of what I've already seen to be interesting in the first game. So I guess that's all I wanted to say into this video. That might be too long otherwise, but yeah, just some thoughts on how analysis seems to appear itself to me and how I deal with it. I don't know, whatever. Thanks for watching. Bye.